Hi there, this is Andrew Morrison. I'm the Chief Operating Officer for Mentoring in Medicine. And welcome to this webinar that talks about strategies for success, how you'll be able to gain an internship this summer in the field of biomedicine and also taking a look at some research opportunities as well. This webinar is a collaboration of several different organizations from Mentoring in Medicine to the Empire State Medical Association to Manhattan's Staten Island AHEC, New York State Area Health Education Center System, to Young Docs, also the Manhattan Central Medical Society. It's also sponsored by New York Black Males in Medicine and Science Task Force, which is a part of the National Medical Association. So we will kind of first give you an overview of our agenda. We'll give you some introductions. I'll share with you some of the webinar rules, technology do's and don'ts. We'll go over the learning objectives for today, and also we'll give you a chance for you to be able to contact us because follow through will be critical to your long-term success. A big shout out to the individuals who made this happen. Nothing happens in a vacuum. There are people who work tirelessly behind the scenes. So Dr. Camille Clare, Dr. Torin Esterling, Dr. Lynn Holden, Dr. Ian McNeil, Dr. Reginald Miller, Mary Mitchell, myself, Andrew Morrison, and Dr. Robert Smith. Give all of them a big thank you. So everyone in the chat room, type in the word thank you because there was a committee of individuals who made this webinar happen. So what are some of the rules? My biggest rule is always to listen. And the hardest part about listening is to minimize any distractions. So make sure you're in a separate room. Make sure you're not, playing Pokemon Go as well. Make sure you're not attempting to drive at the same time. So you minimize distractions. Take some notes, and these notes should really trigger a thought in terms of your own future goals. You want to be supportive. We don't have all the answers. You may discover a program that you may mention a program that you were a part of when you were in high school. So feel free to share. We are looking to establish a learning community. And once again, I want you to follow up. We'll be giving you tons of resources, but all this information will be for naught if you don't follow up and follow through. It's like golf. The key to swinging a golf club is to follow through. So what are some of our learning objectives? I want you to be aware. What are some of the different types of summer programs? And we'll discuss that. I want you to be prepared. How should I choose a program and be early? Why you should apply early. Just because a deadline date is March 1st doesn't mean you should wait until the day before to submit. And we'll talk about the strategies to submit your applications early. Here's our email that we'll also post in the chat room, outreach@medicalmentor.org. That's outreach@medicalmentor.org. Okay, next up, our first speaker is none other than Dr. Lynn Holden. And let me go ahead and unmute her line, and so you'll be able to hear from the founder and chief operating officer for Dr. Lynn Holden. Dr. Holden, you there?
Yes, I am. Hello.
Right. Great. So take it away, Dr. Holden.
Hello, everyone. It's a pleasure to be here. I'm so excited that you are here and that you are all about learning. Even though you're on break, you're still learning. And you are hungry. That is a great sign that you are hungry. Let me tell you a little bit about myself. I am Dr. Lynn Holden. I am an associate professor. I practice emergency medicine in the Bronx, New York, at a hospital called Montefiore Hospital System. I'm also president of Mentoring in Medicine. Many of you are Mentoring in Medicine students, and I thank you for joining. We are a nonprofit that helps students such as yourself achieve your dream of becoming a health professional. You can check us out at www.medicalmentor.org. One of these this program is an example of the programs we like to bring in partnership with other organizations so that we can inform you about opportunities that will help you to advance to the next step and to the next step and to the next step. I was educated, undergrad education at Howard University. I saw a bison out there, so go Bisons. And I went to medical school at the Lewis Katz School of Medicine at Temple University. That's in Philadelphia, PA. I'm actually born and raised in Philadelphia. But probably my biggest claim to fame, and one thing that I'm really proud of, is that I am a product of 6 summer programs. Yes, 6. So I started going to summer programs actually when I was in high school, and every summer thereafter. So I am a cheerleader for summer programs, and we're going to learn a little bit about them with the next slide. So the learning objective that I am going to talk about is be aware. What are different types of summer programs? This is very important because there's so many different types. Next slide, please. So summer biomedical research programs in general are a way for you to have summer brain gain. We want you to gain knowledge, to gain experience. You can do that through a 4 to 8 week learning experience sponsored by various types of organizations, colleges or universities, health professional or science graduate schools, hospitals, nonprofits, different corporations, and even different specialty societies. And all of these programs are to benefit you, the student, so that you not only, next slide please, not only learn about increasing your knowledge, whether it be in science, engineering, medicine, but also that you showcase your best self. That if this is a place where you want to be, if you're in high school and you would like to go, for example, to College X, if College X has a summer program, what is a better way than to go to College X for the summer program before you apply, so that the committee actually knows your name, they know how you behave, they're able to say that they love you, and that's a no-brainer. You get accepted to the school. Same thing, if you're interested in a medical school, why not apply for a program at that medical school, and that will give you a heads up in getting accepted to that medical school. And also it helps you network with professionals. You'll be meeting plenty of professionals who will come in to teach the classes, who will hold sessions, even probably future mentors. So between increasing your knowledge, networking with professionals, and showcasing your best self, you really cannot lose by attending a summer program. Next slide, please. So there are a couple different types of summer programs. First of all, and there's a combo type and there are individual types, but first of all, they're academic enrichment programs. These are programs where, especially in middle school and high school, you go to get experience in, for example, physics or biology or health informatics, or many different types of courses that you may not take in your regular school. There's also, secondly, clinical exposure, and that's where you actually get to shadow physicians, dentists, veterinarians, etc., and you're able to learn about what they do, basically walk in their shoes. Next, there's research experience, and this is where you can go and learn about different techniques of research and practice techniques, and even participate in a project, maybe even get a publication. But research experience, those programs are also very beneficial. And lastly, there's something called test preparation. And with test preparation, it's very interesting because if you're in high school, you may get preparation for the SAT or the standard academic test, or for the ACT. If you're in college or post-bac and you're interested in going to medical school or dental school, you may get preparation for the MCAT or the DAT, the medical college admissions test, or the dental admissions test. So these are all very important extra programs, extra knowledge that you'll be getting by just devoting 4 to 8 weeks in a summer program. Next slide, please. This is just a grid to kind of tell you again with the age range, and the types of programs. So for example, in middle school, most of the programs are academic. Students are pretty young and usually are not allowed in clinical settings, but they may do some research techniques, they may do some early test prep. High school, college, and post-bac, definitely you can have a mixture of types of programs, or a focus program, a clinical only program, a research only program. But these are different types of alternatives that you have to choose from. And these programs may give you a chance to travel. So they may not be located in your home state, but they may be located in another state, and that may give you the opportunity to be on a college campus, the opportunity to see a different part of the country. Next slide, please. And the biggest question probably are financial considerations. Well, let me tell you, there are basically three types of programs. First of all, there are programs where you have to pay to attend. Secondly, there are programs that you get paid to attend. And lastly, they're volunteer programs. So first of all, in the programs that you pay to attend, I definitely recommend that you request a scholarship. A scholarship might not be advertised on the pamphlet or the brochure, but if you get in, you definitely should inquire about a scholarship. And in fact, if you're interested in the program, you should inquire about a scholarship. One of the programs that I went to when I was in high school, I was not able, my family could not afford to pay for the program. So I applied to the program, I got in, and I asked about a scholarship, and I was able to get a partial scholarship to attend that program. And that program was not in my home state. So that meant that I had to have room, I had to have food, I had to have transportation to get there. But the school was very interested in me as a student, as many schools are interested in you as students, and they will pay for you to come there. Next, when you get paid to attend programs, these are programs where you will get a stipend to attend. So basically, you will get not only paid housing, paid transportation to the program, you'll get paid housing, they'll pay for you to have breakfast, lunch, and dinner, and they'll pay for you to have a stipend. Now, I'm not saying all programs are like this, but a fair number are, and they're looking for students just like you. So this is very important to try to get into a paid program where you can get a stipend. May not be a big stipend, but at least it's something that you can utilize for yourself. And then finally, there are voluntary programs. And I will say most of the programs are voluntary, non-paid programs. But again, the benefits are that you showcase yourself, that you're getting a wealth of knowledge that your peers are not, and also that you are able to network with professionals. Next slide, please. A program directory that we have created is located at this link, and we will walk you through it at the end of the webinar. But in short, it lists program links. Over 500 programs are listed for middle, high school, college, and post-bac students. Again, over 500 programs are listed for middle, high school, college, and post-bac students. And it's important that you examine the programs. Some of them, unfortunately, have lost funding because guess what? People like you have not applied for them. So we don't want that to happen. We want to make sure that these programs are filled. So with that, I will turn it over to any questions.
Okay, well, let's take a look. I saw a couple of people that actually raised their hands when it comes to asking a question. And let me see if I can bring those folks into the call. On the participant list, it's possible for you to raise your hand. And so there's a person, VI Sparks. I'm going to go ahead and unmute your line. I'm going to give you a chance to ask a question. VI Sparks, welcome to the program.
Hi, I didn't know I...
Hello? Okay, I guess you may have raised it by accident then. Hello?
Hello? Hello?
Yes. All right, we're having some technical difficulties there. You can also type your questions in the chat room as well. That's also a great way for you to be able to ask a question. Let me see, I see somebody, LG Stylo 3 Plus. Let me see if I can give you a chance. So basically, there is a feature on the system that allows you to raise your hand and also lower your hand if you'd like to be able to ask any questions. So if we go ahead and look in our chat room, let's see if there are any questions in the chat room as well. Okay. So let's see here. When you say post-bac programs, are you also including students who recently graduated and are going to take a gap year? And so Dr. Holder, if you can better explain what a post-bac program actually is.
Absolutely. Testing, can you hear me?
Yes, I can hear you very well.
Excellent. Okay. Thank you for that question. Dr. Claire did answer the question, but I'll reiterate that any student who has graduated from college and who feels they need to take additional coursework to strengthen their prerequisites for health professional school or science graduate school, and they're looking to go back to school, are termed post-bac students. So those are students who may be taking a gap year, or those students who are actually in a post-bac or master's program. So there are post-bac programs. Those are programs specifically for students who are looking to strengthen their background in science or to take prerequisites. There are also master's programs. Those are for students, again, who are looking to strengthen their background in science or to take prerequisites. With the master's program, you do get a master's degree, which will help you moving along. You notice that some of the people on the physicians on the webinar actually have master's degrees, Master in Science, MS, or MPH, Masters in Public Health. So they went on to get a master's degree, and they carry that title with them. A post-bac program, you don't have a title. You basically are finishing a course load, and you finish that program and then apply to a health professional program. But to answer your question, yes, these programs, some of them do allow post-bac or gap year students to participate. In fact, some of them are looking for gap year or post-bac students to participate, such as the National Institutes of Health. So they're looking for students who will actually spend 1 or 2 years there, extend the summer to spend a couple years there to do research.
All right, great. And we'll take just one more question before I move on. And remember, after all the doctors have shared their wisdom, we'll be able to go back and answer any questions we did not address. There's a question from DeAndre Brown. Does MIM have a high school level bio course? DeAndre would like to take a high school level bio, but IB bio is filled and will still like to take the course. Now, our quick answer is no, we don't have one, but guess what? I guarantee you there's somebody who's a part of this conversation right now who knows about a virtual program. And so I want everyone to become very, very aggressive. So even if your school doesn't offer a high school level bio, let us know what school district you're in. I guarantee you it's possible if you take the class online. So let's, any other closing comments, Dr. H, that you'd like to mention? Any questions you'd like to address before we go to the next doctor?
No, I think we'll take questions at the end. I'll be answering questions over chat. And if you have any questions, remember outreach at medicalmentor.org. Outreach at medicalmentor.org. And we will email you the summer program directory after the webinar.
All right, great. Okay, next up, I'm going to go ahead and unmute our next doctor, Dr. Thomas McNeil, Dr. Ian Thomas McNeil, I should say. And let me go ahead and put his slide in presentation mode. Dr. McNeil, can you hear me?
I can hear you well, thanks.
All right, great. So take it away.
All right, thank you. Thank you everyone for being on this webinar. It's very exciting to have the opportunity to share our experience and breadth of knowledge. Just by way of background, I am currently a resident physician at the Mount Sinai Hospital in New York City in the Department of Neurosurgery. It's a 7th-year program, and so I'm in my first of 3 chief resident years as a neurosurgery resident. Prior to being a resident, I grew up, born and raised in Connecticut, went to Harvard for undergraduate studies where I was an Afro-American studies major, also played football. I actually applied after one gap year where I was working as an in-home interventionalist for at-risk children and family in New Haven studies. So I didn't get in, ended up doing a 2nd year there, and then went on to complete a special master's program at Georgetown, and then actually decided to explore the business side of medicine. And I worked as a consultant for hospitals for about 5 years, and then finally came back, fell in love with medicine again, and matriculated to the University of Virginia School of Medicine, where I fell in love with neurosurgery. And here I am in New York, 5 years later as a resident. And most recently, I founded a program named Doctors Reaching Minority Males Exploring Neuroscience, which is a summer program for rising high school seniors interested in medicine. It's an exposure and mentorship program that we just launched this past year. So what I'm going to speak to you about is crafting your narrative in the context of choosing this summer program. So I've had a variety of interesting experiences, and so I've created a story around that. But here at this stage in your career, you're just getting started in crafting your narrative. Who are you going to be as a package when you have to go in and sell yourself in a medical school interview or an interview for one of these summer programs? The breadth of your experiences is really going to craft who you are. And so I want to talk to you about how you choose a program in the context of preparing yourself as an applicant going forward. So what we'll do is talk about first is how do you evaluate yourself as an applicant? So these are key questions that I think are top of mind for me when I think about when I was at your stage. But this is just a way to help organize how you evaluate the dozens and actually hundreds of programs out there. So first key question is, what is it that you want? What is it that actually gets you excited? The great thing about where you are in your stage is you are just getting started in crafting the rest of your professional life. And so there's still opportunity, not to say it goes away, but there's still opportunity really now to go into it for the sheer passion and what you're going to be getting out of this experience. So is it something you want, something that's fun to you, something that's new, that's off the beaten path, something that's going to allow you to travel to a new city or even abroad, overseas? And then what is it in terms of your time commitment? What are you looking for, just the summer experience, or do you want something that's going to transition into a year-long or multi-year relationship or opportunity? Finally, like Dr. Holden alluded to, there are financial considerations. And for some, what people want money out of that opportunity. And so looking and segmenting the opportunities that will allow you to make some money for that summer. And then what is it you really want? When people ask, what do you want to be when you grow up? Really sit and think about, what do you want? Do you want to be a physician scientist and pursue an MD, PhD? Do you want to be someone who's a caretaker or physician, but also aligned with community engagement and community service? Think about what you want and your goals, and that'll help you define what type of program you want to look for. Secondly, so not only do you want to identify what you want, but you need to identify what you need to make yourself the best applicant possible. So you need to think about what is incomplete in your package. What do you need to make you the best applicant possible? So is it mentorship and someone that's going to be willing to write you a strong, excellent letter of recommendation? Do you have familial obligations that require you to stay close to home? A lot of students may need research experience. Some people may need shadowing experience. And then the truth is, some people may need the money to pay or contribute to the financial obligations of college, or even if you're post-baccalaureate, you may need money to just pay for living expenses. So the difference here is that you're looking at an honest assessment of where you stand and where deficits are, and you want to choose programs that are going to help you eliminate those deficits to make you the complete package, to make you a very attractive applicant when you're sitting in that interview when you're applying to school. And then finally, another honest assessment of what you qualify for. Some programs may have a GPA requirement. Some programs may require a certain major, some a year in college and prior experience. So just be detailed in reviewing what that programs are asking for. And sometimes you can actually tweak your experience to highlight certain experiences that make you a better qualified applicant. And then, of course, always look at your background. There are programs out there looking for minority males, women in science, people from different types of backgrounds. So look at those programs. They may give you an avenue to qualify for something. So in that said, let's take a look at the different types of programs and how you might evaluate. First, we'll go into science-based programs. So these are typically programs that are invested in creating a science-based, not necessarily a wholly research experience, but there are programs ranging from marine biology to biochemistry to biology and so forth. And what these summer-based immersion programs offer you, one, in terms of pros, are a relationship with a faculty mentor that could translate into a long-term relationship for mentorship, and ultimately one for long-term collaboration, and hopefully someone that can ultimately write you a letter of recommendation down the road. On the other hand, some of these research programs may limit access to actual medical exposure. So actually being on the floor, seeing patients, getting to see what it's like to be a physician day to day. On the pro side, these programs will definitely demonstrate your interest in science. And if you are someone who's interested in science, this will really cement that interest when you pull together your resume for applications. However, it may not demonstrate a specific interest in medicine. So if you're thinking about someone who wants to go in and pursue an MD, you want to think about how you can sell this program to your future interviewer to say, although I did a program in marine biology, I always had a passion for medicine. You got to be able to translate that ultimately to craft that narrative as to what led you to medicine ultimately. Finally, great opportunity for students interested in biomedical research or pursuing an MD, PhD. It really enhances your science-based cachet, kind of elevates your experiences. However, these types of programs may be a reach for liberal arts majors. I myself was a liberal arts major, and actually when I was in college, I didn't necessarily have an interest in pursuing a science-based program. So just be honest with yourself about what you're interested in and then what you may qualify for. So let's move on to the next type of program, which are the research-based program. So we can go to the next slide. And so these can be a little bit different. Of course, there's always overlap. So science-based programs and research-based programs may overlap. The research-based programs typically have students in a laboratory type environment. However, there are also clinical type research-based programs that may have you doing projects, for instance, on public health, health economics. So the research is not only limited to science. Again, you're going to have that opportunity to crystallize a relationship with a faculty mentor and continue that long-term collaboration beyond just summer. So it could be a long-term collaboration where you're working with someone over multiple years, which can really be a fruitful relationship for you in terms of mentorship. So that being said, you should consider that a summer program is a very short time frame for being able to put out a meaningful research output. So if it's science has a lot of trial and error. The likelihood of getting a project out in 6 to 8 weeks is very, very slim. Similarly, putting together a paper in 6 to 8 weeks on in a clinical research study is going to be unlikely. So you may want to look at translating this summer opportunity into a long-term opportunity. The great thing about research, it is translatable. It will demonstrate your interest in research and science. Again, however, a research-based program may limit your time in clinical experience. So if you're in this type of program where you're not with doctors seeing patients, you need to find a way to actually get that shadowing and clinical exposure as a medical school applicant. Finally, clinical and basic science programs are available. So as I was saying, there are research-based programs that can apply to anyone from any backgrounds in terms of your area of concentration, in terms of your schooling and education. So don't sell yourself short if you happen to be from a liberal arts major. But again, be very cognizant of how you're going to sell that experience ultimately on your resume and craft that narrative about how ultimately this has led to your interest and developed your interest in medicine. So finally, let's talk about the clinical-based programs. And these programs typically involve some type of exposure or shadowing, oftentimes enfolding a type of project that may be working independent type of research project. But the priority is really to immerse you in the clinical area around medicine. So the great thing is that, I actually was on the admissions committee at the University of Virginia. And one of the things that the committee always looked at is the amount of clinical exposure the students had. And so this is a great way to get that exposure to what it's really like to being a doctor. However, keep in mind, shadowing is a passive experience by nature. You can't just show up. You got to take initiative. Know who you're shadowing. Read up on that person. See what they're working on. What are the hot topics in that field? And ask questions. Really be engaged, because that's going to make you stand out. Don't just show up and stay quiet for that exposure or shadowing experience. The other great thing is that this starts to build your medical network, and more specifically, your medical school network. So you're meeting doctors who may be involved in the medical school. They may be involved in the admissions committee. They may know people on the admissions committee. And so building those relationships can often translate into success later on if you really help develop those relationships. But you've got to take that initiative, be a standout. Take the initiative to meet with that person. Again, be prepared to really further that relationship. Finally, there is some skill development in the final presentation or a completion of a project. But from my observation, a lot of times these clinical-based program projects can be nebulous. It takes a lot of self-direction to get started and then take that project to completion and make a good final product. So in that 6 to 8 weeks, make sure you're starting and hitting the ground running early, and ask for help when you need it to take that project to completion and be a standout student in that clinical-based program. So in summary, again, do go through those initial questions to do that self-assessment, thinking about what you need, what you want, and then what you qualify for. And then start to think about what your rubric of questions are for yourself as you assess the different programs or the types of programs you want.
All right, great. Outstanding. I'm glad to see that our chat room has been really busy here. And do you see any questions in the chat room that you may want to address? Or do you want to, I can maybe pull out a question from the chat room. There's a basic one. How can I apply for the summer research program? We'll be sending out the link for people to apply. Here's a question. My college doesn't offer research. I'm interested in the labs and do work in a specific field. Doesn't offer summer program. So this is a question for VI to you, Dr. Easterlin. I'm sorry, I meant Dr. McNeil.
Okay, so the great thing about this database of programs is that there are programs nationwide that cater to students seeking opportunities for research. So if you are willing to travel away from or be off campus, I understand some people may have obligations locally, but if you're willing to travel within state or even out of state, there are definitely programs that allow people to travel. And I've seen these programs include stipends. So this may take a little bit of background research on your own part, but kind of digging through this database and finding a program that gives you that research experience and perhaps provides funding for your travel and living expenses for the summer. There are definitely programs out there. It's just about crafting that great application, which is actually the next part of our presentation.
Okay. Let's see here. I'm looking to see if there are any questions I can ask you. I mean, here's a kind of an unrelated question, but is there any program allowing you to get conditional acceptance to medical school without the MCAT requirement? I've been searching, and unfortunately, I've yet to find one. I'm a graduate, and I'm working full time.
So that is a good question. There are medical schools that are starting to look at alternative pathways to acceptance. I know the Icahn School of Medicine at Mount Sinai, the health system with which I'm affiliated, has an alternative pathway where the MCAT is not a requirement, and a significant number of admitted students are admitted through that pathway. So there is bottom line is there are programs out there that allow this. Another program that I'm not familiar with but I do think it may require the MCAT, is the GEMS program at Georgetown. It's a post-baccalaureate program, and that program does give conditional acceptance to the medical school as long as it's very rigorous, but it does allow conditional acceptance into the medical school after that 1 year. But I think those students did have to take the MCAT at least once.
Okay, great. Outstanding. Thank you so much for sharing. And once again, if your question was not answered, whether online or in the chat room, remind us toward the end, and we will make sure to bring you back into the conversation. So thank you so much, Dr. McNeil.
You're welcome.
All right, great. Okay, next up, I'm going to go to our next speaker, Dr. Robert Smith. And as I look for him to unmute his line. All right, so Dr. Smith, can you hear me?
Yes, good evening, everyone. How are you?
All right, great. Okay, so Dr. Smith, you can take it away.
Okay. This evening, I'd like to welcome everyone and bring you to this last section, which is going to talk specifically about the application process. A little bit about me. I'm a graduate of Meharry Medical College, which is one of the few black medical colleges in the United States. I did my residency in internal medicine, a postdoc NIH fellowship, extramurally. I have a master's in public health, previous faculty positions. My work now is primarily administrative, and my community work includes that with the NMA, a shadowing organization called Footsteps to Follow, and a subcommittee on the Community Board for Health and Welfare. But that's me, and this is about you tonight. So let's go to the next slide. By the way, I am also a product of a summer program, and hopefully people who are looking at this presentation will sort of get the trend that these entrance opportunities are to your advantage. Okay, so what are the different types of programs? Whoops. How to prepare yourself, and the early bird gets the worm, basically. Let's go to the next slide. Now, we're assuming the following, that you've made some choices, you've taken advantage of what the previous speakers have said, you considered the vocation, the association, and the location of programs. You prepared yourself to set aside sufficient time to apply for these programs. When we speak of what it is that the application requires, you'll see that given this short period of time, most people are going to have difficulty getting out more than 3 applications. So we want everyone who is considering to put forth about 3 competitive applications. And if you can do more than that, that's great, but 3 is a minimum. Hopefully, we would hope that all of the participants in this particular forum consider seriously the advice that has been offered by the speakers here and elsewhere in terms of mentoring and recommendation. And that should increase your chances of success. Next slide, please. Okay, so your goals are 3 minimum applications. Now, I have 2 sons who are in college and high school, and let's be realistic. Most people are on vacation at this point. For you to say, I'm going to start tomorrow with an application process, perhaps is not realistic. So pick a date, probably sometime early in January, and stick with it. Okay, be realistic. The application process is a multi-step procedure. You're going to be asked to produce transcripts, essays, and other materials. Some may ask you to submit a curriculum vitae or CV, And if we have time, we'll go through the distinction between a resume and a CV. This is going to take time. The time that you have is short. The majority of applications have a window of opportunity that closes the end of February. As we speak, some of the programs that are listed have already closed. So there is a short window of opportunity. You need to understand that and work towards the purpose of meeting your deadlines. Next slide, please. Let's look at some common threads. All of the applications that you're going to submit are going to require transcripts and letters of recommendation. Given that, those probably should be the first two things that you submit once you identify a minimum of 3 programs that you're interested in. Everybody knows that the registrar's office is not the most cooperative and the most swift, so that's the first place you should go. And I'll give an example at the end of how that might present a little bit of a complication with regard to your application. But the transcript is the first thing you ask for. Also, you want to identify early on the people who are going to write your recommendations. I would suggest that if you're applying to 3 programs, you look at this little diagram at the end. 1, 2, and 3 represent the programs. I wouldn't ask any of your professors for more than 2 applications. So Professor A is going to write a recommendation to program 1 and 2. Professor B is going to write recommendations to 2 and 3. And Professor C is going to write recommendations to 1 and 3. Anybody who's taken a little bit of intermediate mathematics should know that these are combinations and permutations, and you can mix these up as you would like. Bottom line is, professors should be asked to write no more than 2 recommendations, because after that, your requests become burdensome to them. Next slide. This is a spreadsheet that I would recommend people look at, and let's see if we can find a little bit of instruction here. On the name of institution column, you'll see the University of whatever and Big Biz Inc. The first is an academic institution, the second is a corporation. The deadlines are clearly outlined, and that's the first thing you should include in this diagram. Put down your dates of deadline so that you have a target. The categories of programs we've discussed earlier. Professors A, B, and C are noted. And here's where we can perhaps learn something. You go to the registrar's office. The registrar is asked to submit your set of transcripts. Presumably, you're submitting 3 requests at the same time. Now, if the registrar sends out your transcripts on the 25th, you complete your application at about that time, you're really riding against the border of this February 1st deadline, which is at the left end of the column in the second program. Yes, down at the bottom. So this is going to require you now to be extra vigilant in terms of going back just to make sure that your transcript was mailed. And now you're going to want to perhaps the program to make sure that not only was it mailed, but that it was received. Okay? There are many, many ways that this type of a spreadsheet might be able to help you, and I would seriously encourage anyone who's going to participate in these programs, especially given the short amount of time that you have to get all of the required documents in, to use this tool as an aid. Next slide, please. So the suggestions are to identify who's in charge of the programs that you are applying to and know how to contact these people. You must certainly be able to get in contact with the program to check the status of your application before the deadline. Not the day of, not the day after, before the deadline. Significantly enough before the deadline so that if you need to take action in terms of, well, gee, professor, did you send that recommendation? Gee, do I need to tweak my my essay a little bit? You want to have a little bit of room before the deadline. And lastly, if you can establish some sort of personal contact with the people who are offering the program, you know, it might be to your advantage to do so. In particular, if we get a chance, maybe we'll actually look at one or two programs that are offered. But in the RIT offerings, the programs are listed by date. Some programs have not submitted applications for 2018. If you're interested in that program, it behooves you to call or contact the program and ask whether or not they're participating. Ask if, in fact, you might, in fact, be able to garner an application. Who knows? Maybe they didn't have an opportunity to put out an application, and you and a few other people who were aggressive and who took the initiative might be the people who were solely considered. You never know. So take the steps that are necessary, and don't be afraid to take the extra steps that might make the difference between you getting into or not getting into a program. Next slide. So let's see if there are, let's go over the learning objectives again. So be aware of the different types of programs. Be prepared to make the application as best you can and in a timely manner, and apply as early as you can once you have identified your 3 programs. If there are any questions.
Well, here's a great question. Are there any medical conferences where students can network with medical professionals?
Conferences in terms of learning experience, or conferences?
Just to, well, I guess to do both, but basically they'd like to be able to meet more biomedical professionals.
I would suggest the following. There are 2 organizations usually that are active in the community that they may reach out to. If you are not in medical school yet, you might want to consider contacting the local branch of the Student National Medical Association, the SNMA. The SNMA is closer to the undergraduates than is the parent organization, the National Medical Association, and they may in fact be an entree into allowing students a realistic view of what life in medical school is actually like. So the recommendation is to look to see if you can find a local branch of the NMA, which is usually associated with a local medical school. Perhaps as we post information going forward, we can give contacts for the national branch of the NMA, and people can pursue that in their local areas.
Here's a question from Janae. What if you plan to take summer courses, but most of the summer programs cross over with your summer courses? So the summer classes you plan to take, but most of these summer programs, cross over with them. So what should you do?
Well, this is a question of priority, and there's no getting around it. You have to take care of home first. If you require that chemistry class in order to graduate, take the chemistry class. Going to a summer program is not going to be a substitute for your core requirements. It is an extra. So I hope that everyone understands this. These offerings are extras, but you've got to have your foundation in order to stand on those extras.
All right. Outstanding answer. And let's keep those questions coming along in the chat room. And once again, folks can reach out to us by sending us an email at outreach@medicalmentor.org. That's outreach@medicalmentor.org. Okay, next up, as we wind down, I would like Dr. Holden to take over. And Dr. Holden, I believe you were going to showcase a couple of different actual summer programs and maybe walk the students through how they can actually utilize them.
Okay, sure. I would love to do that. If I could get my screen shared. Where's the table participant screen sharing? Okay. Let me try to share the screen. All right. I'm having a little difficulty sharing my screen. There I go. Okay, let's see. All right, everyone, as you continue to ask questions, what we're going to do is actually go through this website, which is the link, the program directory. It's been posted already. We will post it again. And now I just want to show you how to go through it. So first of all, you can see that the directory is broken down. It's a spreadsheet, and we will be constantly adding to this spreadsheet. So please make sure you check back frequently. Just to orient you, there are general links right now on the spreadsheet. Each link has roughly at least 10 to almost 100 different programs. So you really have to investigate these links very carefully. On the left-hand column, you see the general program links, middle and high school, highlighted there in light yellow. And then if you scroll down, you'll see college and post-bac programs. You can also see that the title of the website is there, and also the location. Is it a New York, such as number 4, or is it a national? There are national programs listed on the website. I want to scroll down to a website that Dr. Smith referred to, and that is the RIT website. I'm going to pull that up so everyone can look at it. That's under the college and post-bac. So let me pull that up so you can see it. All right, so this is the RIT, and this is a group who has graciously put together website for students who are interested mostly in high school, college, and post-bac programs. If you scroll down, you can see that there are different subcategories. So you see, for example, the subcategories are biomedical research, and for pre-medical students. If you're interested in, if you're a minority and underrepresented student, there are programs there. If you're interested in pre-veterinarian medicine, there are programs there. Opportunities for high school students, private companies, etc. So you see there international opportunities, as a matter of fact. So let's choose and click on the minority and underrepresented students link. And God bless you. And you see here that these are all opportunities listed are paid unless otherwise indicated. You notice here that as you scroll down, more explanation. It's so important that you read everything when you're applying to these programs, because a lot of times they're telling you what they're looking for. You just have to follow the instruction. So let's, for example, scroll on the Albert Einstein College of Medicine. Click on that. You see here that there's a link. It's located in the Bronx, New York. It's a co-op program, Diversity Student Summer Research Opportunity Program. If you click on that program, for example, you'll see that, see, you have to, oftentimes it may not go straight to the program. So you have to find the link that you're looking for, and let's search for summer programs. And we see here that there are a couple of different summer programs. So let's talk about this graduate, let's say summer undergraduate research program, for example. We'll click on that. And okay, so if you look here, it says Summer Undergraduate Research Program. It's a program that brings 50 college students each summer to the campus of Einstein College of Medicine. Their 2018 CERT program will start on June 4th. It tells you when it starts and when it ends. It goes to the program features. Now, this program is interesting because you have faculty seminars and research. It's really a research-based program, but you also get career planning, trips to local organizations, to local places like the Bronx Zoo, and you get a $3,000 stipend. Free housing, $3,000 stipend, and up to $500 in transportation. So it's important that you read over all of these particulars. How to apply. Let's go to how to apply, just as an example. Application must be received by the deadline of February 1st, 2018. Supporting materials can be received after the deadline. Admission to the program is very competitive. And let me just stress here that Dr. Smith spoke about these programs, and they are competitive. And that's why we want you to apply to a minimum of 3 programs. We don't want you to be disappointed, but we do want you to be realistic in applying to the programs. Eligibility for this program, for example, seems to be, first of all, a strong background in the sciences, biology, biochemistry, chemistry, physics, bioengineering, or chemical engineering. Completion of your junior year in college. Rare cases, they will accept sophomores. Freshmen and seniors will not be considered, and you have to be a U.S. citizen or permanent resident. The materials, they're looking for a completed online application, scanned copies of your academic transcripts, 2 letters of recommendation, and a personal statement. So you have to make sure, as Dr. Smith created the grid, that you have that filled out. So each program has different requirements. Let's go to another program just so we can see a sample quickly. Let's see. I'm just going to try to pull up another program here. And then as I do that, here's another example of a type of program that you'll see, a type of link that you'll see. And this is from explorehealthcareers.org. And this program, let's pull that up. So this allows you to search for different programs. So let's, for example, search for clinical observation programs in, we'll say, California. And you can search for those. And let's see if it comes up. Let's see, clinical observation programs, we'll say in Florida. Let's see what we get back. All right, so my search is not working, but let me just pull out, for example, a program, the Stanford Medical Youth Science Program, and let's read a little bit about that. We can see that it's an academic enrichment, clinical observation, and they take high school students. It offers students, it's a residential program, It's from mid-June to late July. It's held on the campus of Stanford University. So if you're a high school student and you're interested in attending Stanford, this would be a perfect program for you because you get to know the campus, the people, and actually get some enrichment about it. So who is eligible to apply? It's open to low-income and or unrepresented minority high school sophomores and juniors who live in Northern and Central California. So if you live in New York, then you're not eligible to apply. So you really have to make sure that you read the eligibility. Only applications received from the following California counties will be considered. This may not pertain to you, but there are plenty of programs that do pertain to you. So don't waste your time and energy applying to this program if you live in New York or you live in Maryland, because they're not going to accept your application. So you have to make sure to read carefully the instructions before you apply to these programs. Thank you very much. Any other questions?
There was a question wondering what programs do you suggest for a post-bac gap year student who's planning to take their MCAT in May? So they're taking MCAT in May, they're a post-bac gap year. What program should they do during the summer if they took their MCAT in May?
Okay, so if they took their MCAT in May and their post-bac program, I suggest that they try to get some clinical experience. And they can try to get a clinical experience by going to a local hospital. If they're interested in, for example, neurosurgery, Dr. McNeil has a program if they're located in New York. If they're interested in, say, pediatrics, if they go to the Pediatric Society, they may be able to find a link for programs for people who are interested in pediatrics. So a lot of this is you have to be hungry, you have to be willing to do research and spend time actually searching the internet and asking questions, not being afraid to ask questions. And that's what I think Dr. McNeil really put forth, Dr. Smith, that you really have to make sure to ask plenty of questions. That's so important don't be afraid to pick up the phone and to ask and to call. That's why people are program directors, etc.
All right, great. Let me see if I can have someone actually join in the conversation, and also the docs out there. You can feel free to raise your hand, and I'll be calling on all our docs to give some closing comments and observations. But let's see. I believe there's a Destiny. Destiny, can you hear me?
Yes.
Yes. Okay. Welcome to the program. What's your question?
Oh, sorry. I had I wanted to get to the spreadsheet that she sent, but I couldn't find it, so I downloaded it, and I think I'm on my way to finding it so I can see the list of all the programs.
Okay. So what we're going to do is we will repost that link once again in our chat room for you. Okay.
Thank you.
All right. Great. Okay. Thank you so much, Destiny. And once again, if you'd like to join us, you could raise your hand, and I will go ahead and unmute your call. Your line. Every question is a good question. Let's see. Sophia just raised her hand. Let me go ahead and bring you into the conversation, Sophia. Let's see here. Sophia, can you hear me? Let's see here. I think I'm hearing Sophia. I'm going to ask you to start your video, Sophia. All right. So if you raise your hand, let's see. I'm going to go switch to. Let me look in the chat room. Has anyone here applied to and participated in the SCORE program at MSK? SCORE program MSK. Anyone have any experience with that? You can go ahead and let us know in the chat room. But let me go to each of our doctors to have them give us some closing comments. And so I'll kind of start with Dr. McNeil. I will unmute your line, and if you can kind of give us some closing words of inspiration. Dr. McNeil, go ahead.
Okay. I've been looking at all the questions come through on the chat room, and it's really exciting to see how engaged and hungry you all are for information. And just kind of really resonates with me, and I know the other doctors here, that that we're really providing something that is of use for you, and it really inspires us to try to figure out what other content we can pull together to be helpful in this journey. One of the themes I've seen is that many of you are seeking input on your very specific situation, and unfortunately in this format, it's impossible to go through your entire background, your past experiences, and really see what the perfect program is there for you. So I would encourage you in spending the time looking through these resources. Put in a few hours and pour through these spreadsheets, explore, and then really, before you even do that self-assessment task of looking at what you need to do to make yourself a good applicant, and then also what it is that you really would want and what you would enjoy. If you find something that you enjoy, that's going to make you such a better, shadower, clinical researcher, scientist, whatever it is. So find that thing that you want to get out of this experience, and then also do the assessment of what you need to make yourself a better applicant. To Dr. Poland's point, a lot of that can be more clinical exposure. You can really never have enough. And so make sure that you're getting clinical exposure, especially if you're in that science or research-based program, because that will be a ding on your medical school application if you never spent time shadowing a doctor. So spend your time going through the resources and really finding that program that would be good for you. As a group here, we can't tell you what that specific program will be, but there's a program out there for everyone.
All right, great, outstanding. And hold on, Dr. McNeil. Let me see if I can unmute Shumi's line. Hello, Shumi. Welcome to the program.
Hi.
Hello.
How are you?
Great,
I just had a quick question about Dr. McNeil's. I know Dr. Holden just mentioned that we're able to, if we're interested, to reach out to one of his program, I believe, if you're interested in neuroscience.
Yes.
So how do we go about that? If we are interested in neuroscience, how do we go about if we want to shadow him or meet him or
so
just
you want to hang out with the rock star Dr. McNeil? Is that your question?
Yes. Yes.
All right, Dr. McNeil, take it away.
Sure. So always happy to have students come shadow and see what neurosurgery is all about. It does to get. So in terms of getting on campus at Mount Sinai, you need to typically be, college age and above, and there is an application process to get medically cleared. So if you're willing to go through that process, I can get you my contact information, and I can put you in touch with the department that does that clearing. Sometimes it can take actually a few months to get cleared, but once you are cleared, you can do that. Now, I'm not sure if you're in the New York City area.
I am.
Okay, so we can definitely do that. As far as, but just in general, in terms of being interested in neuroscience, neurosurgery, this is the opportunity where you can start building that network. And so I'm one person, but we can chat about how to build that network in general. And are we sending our contact information out as a group, or
yes, Dr. Holden will make sure anyone who wants to follow up with the good doctors who are here, send the email to outreach@medicalmentor.org. That's outreach@medicalmentor.org. And we'll make sure that we put you in contact with Dr. McNeil and other doctors. Before I let you go, Dr. McNeil, share with me some of the mistakes students have made when it comes to just working with you. I mean, I'm sure everything hasn't been peachy keen. What are some of the don'ts? Or what are some of the things you personally may dislike? What are some of the things that may disqualify someone from having an internship opportunity or a shadowing opportunity with you?
So I would, you're entering a profession, and so you want to treat this shadowing experience like this is a job. So one, come early. I unfortunately start work pretty early, so I'm usually, I have students meet me between 5:15, 5:30, and so I know it's early, but
So, wait a minute. That AM or PM?
it's AM.
Okay, just want to make sure everybody gets that.
So make sure if we establish a meeting time and a place, be there, and then come dressed professionally. Don't show up in jeans and a t-shirt. This is a trial run. Dress like a professional, and then do some research about what the field is all about. Even if you're not doing neurosurgery or going to ophthalmology, do some background reading, some research. Don't just show up and be passive. Have some level of engagement with what you might be seeing in that day. The first day may be overwhelming. It's okay to ask questions. Try to ask the questions in times where there's some downtime. And don't ask. So find the appropriate times to take some emotional intelligence to find when that might be the right time. So perhaps at the end of the day, kind of take notes. Taking notes is wonderful. If you're taking notes, it shows me or other people who are observing that you're engaged. And then at the end of the day or the appropriate time, that's when you ask the questions. And then following up is important. So one day shadowing me or anybody is valuable, but you want to continue to build that relationship. So following up with a thank you note, not a requirement review, but that kind of communication continues to foster and build the relationship, particularly if you want to come back and come again. So I think those are the big things. Treat it like a job. So dress like a professional, act like a professional, be prepared, and follow up.
Nice. All right, great. Thank you so much.
This is Dr. Holden. I don't know if you can hear me.
I can hear you. Go ahead, Doctor. Go ahead.
So just tagging along with that, I will say that while most medical schools, actually all health professional schools, require that applicants have some form of shadowing, some more than others, that is really seen as a privilege. And they are hard to come by, shadowing opportunities. Most of the shadowing opportunities are paired with volunteer opportunities, unless it's with the summer program, which is specifically for and will give you a shadowing opportunity. And just as Dr. McNeil said, you're showcasing yourself. You're basically not only seeing your future self, but you're also saying, yes, this is something that I can do, that I want to do. And it's important that you make sure that you have put your best foot forward at all times. And there are lots of things that go into that. It's a very packed phrase when we say put your best foot forward, but it's definitely something that's very important that you have to pay attention to.
Great. More closing comments. Let me go over to Dr. Easterling. Let me go ahead and unmute your audio. Dr. Easterling, you want to share some closing words of wisdom?
Sure. Good evening, everyone. Can you hear me, Andrew?
Yes, I can hear you.
Good evening, everyone. As was already mentioned, my name is Dr. Torian Easterling. I'm a family medicine physician by training, also a preventive medicine physician by training. I no longer see patients. I actually serve as an assistant commissioner for the New York City Department of Health. And so, I want to echo all of my colleagues and what has already been shared. I do think this is a great opportunity for all of you. I think one of the most important lessons that I've learned, and I think I want to share with you all, is that, you definitely want to just stay committed to this process. There are going to be a lot of bumps and barriers and along this way. So, just continue to reach out. And also just remember that there are so many others that have gone through this process. There are no dumb questions. There are no stories that many of us have not heard. So continue to ask the questions and reach out. There are many people who are willing to provide experiences. One of the experiences that I do want to also underline are experiences in public health. They can provide you a very rich experience in both health, wellness, and policy. We have a lot of students who are interning at the New York City Department of Health. There are going to be, there's an application that also just opened up, and we are looking for students. Some of them are paid, some of them are unpaid, but they are very rich experience, and they also provide a unique opportunity for you to talk about a public health experience as you're applying for additional programs. So I do want to put a plug in for public health experiences, as they do provide you an opportunity to do more community-based experiences, work with your local Department of Health to understand how populations and communities can be healed through interventions.
Outstanding. Thank you so much for your time and for your words of wisdom. I know she wasn't expecting this, but Dr. Camille Claire, I'd like to unmute your line. So why don't you go ahead, Dr. Claire, and share some closing words of wisdom.
Hello, can you hear me?
Yes, I can hear you fine.
So thank you so much for the opportunity. I don't see myself on video, which is probably a good thing, but I would say that I am very encouraged by all the students' questions. They're very engaged questions. I do encourage the students to email us separately at outreach@medicalmentor.org. Again, if there's specific questions that fit into your particular circumstances, we had a range of questions regarding how to do summer programs, how to get a letter of recommendation, and just how to get into medical school or their health professional school of their choice. So please follow up with us afterwards and stay encouraged. But research is going to be required after this webinar. You will have to do some research on your own. So thank you so much.
All right, great, outstanding. Let me see if there are any other doctors who would like to join us as we give closing words of wisdom. I will tell you from my own personal story that I was the product of summer programs. I had a chance to meet none other than Dr. Lynn Holden at Carnegie Mellon. We were both high school juniors, rising seniors. I met her at the summer program at Carnegie Mellon, and I was her organic chemistry tutor. She went on to become a doctor, and I simply went on to become her husband. And so those of you who tutor others in organic chemistry, there's still hope for you as well. But the point is that there are a lot of opportunities when it comes to these pipeline programs.
The program is really based upon your high school grades, high school GPA, as well as your SAT scores, and your first year of college. It is a highly competitive program, but many students don't learn about the program until later on in their academic year when they're juniors or seniors in college, so they can't apply. So I recommend that anyone that's a freshman take a look at that program, as well as high school students. Another program that we just started that piggybacks on the FlexMed program is called FlexGrad. So those of you who are looking at graduate school should take a look at our graduate school program. And this, again, is an early acceptance program. Now, that program is based upon students having participated in our summer undergraduate research program. Applications for that program are open now. And if you come and participate in the summer undergraduate research program and do well, you're offered early acceptance or early admittance to our graduate school. And again, that early acceptance does not require the GRE. So there's a FlexMed program and a FlexGrad program at Sana that I highly recommend students take a look at.
All right, outstanding. Dr. Miller, if you're able to post anything in our chat room, the website, that would be wonderful as well. Okay, Dr. H, anyone else I need to call on to?
Yes, Mary Mitchell. She was on the committee and I believe is on the call. If she's on the phone, I definitely would love for her to say some remarks. Mary Mitchell, if you could raise your hand, that would be great. We don't see you on the lineup. Oh, there you are.
Okay. Hi, can you hear me?
Yes, we can hear you.
Hi, I am so sorry. I had a family emergency that prohibited me from getting on earlier, but I do want to say I'm so glad to be a part of this. And for all the students that are here, I'm really proud of you for taking this time to do this. I am working with students who wish to explore health careers. If you're not quite sure what you'd like to do and have some thoughts about, I want to go into medicine, I want to go into nursing, I'm not quite sure, we have programs at the AHEC that will allow you to explore all those careers. So I think our information is available on the website that we talked about and all the attachments that were given. So please feel free to contact MSI AHEC to find out anything you'd like to know about exploring summer programs. We do have programs this summer, and there are AHECs in all the New York City areas, the 5 boroughs, as well as across the country. So if we can be helpful with your exploration of health careers, we will be glad to do that. Thank you again. I'm so sorry.
Great.
Thank you, Mary. I think it's very important, Ms. Mitchell, that you tell everyone that the AHECs, the area health education centers, are, in fact, across the country. So they should look for their local, because we have students calling in from across the country.
Yes,
can look
absolutely.
Yes.
If students want to contact msiahec.org, we will help you to connect with whatever AHEC is near you. We'll be glad to do that and direct you to the National AHEC organization, where you'll find programs in pretty much every county in the country. So please feel free to reach out to us, and we'll be glad to let you know what's available near you.
All right. Outstanding. Thank you so much, Ms. Mitchell, for sharing. Okay, I'll go ahead and mute your line. Let's see. Anyone else, Dr. Holden, we need to call on as we wrap up? Thank you, Dr. Miller, for sharing the Flex Grad and Flex Med programs. I encourage folks, don't sleep on that unique opportunity. Let me see. I think there may be a Nadia who raised her hand. Let's see if I can bring you in a few minutes. Hello, Nadia?
Hi, can you hear me?
I can hear you. Go ahead.
Oh, okay. Yeah, I am, thank you for unmuting me. I'm a postbac, and I know that you guys did cover some information directed towards postbac specifically, which I appreciate. I am wondering about the clinical experience and other types of considerations when you look at a postbac student. I have other experiences, but I didn't have 4 years of college to kind of find a niche in clinical research or in programs, right? So while I was able to get, I was blessed to be able to have awesome clinical experiences and shadowing during my course loads in the past year and a half. I don't have what a typical undergrad would have in terms of opportunities. And I just wondered, because Dr. McNeil mentioned, that I think it was Dr. McNeil, that at Virginia they really looked at clinical experience as one of the most important aspects of an application. And I just kind of wondered if anybody has experience here with applications and how one looks on paper, if that's considered for postbacks, that we didn't have the time frame that others have, kind of.
Okay.
So this is Dr. Holden. Let me say, Nadia, that's kind of a whole separate webinar. You can send me this question at Medical Mentor. But in general, let's just say that all medical schools are undergoing if you apply to a medical school, you undergo what's called a holistic review. So it's really hard to compare yourself to another person, because we, as a medical school, will take into account all of your experiences. What is important, and I'm going to let Dr. Claire also chime in, because she's the diversity officer at a medical school, but what is important is that you have clinical experience for some time period. So if you have some clinical experience and you've done it for 3-6 months, that's fine. So don't be discouraged, because you cannot compare Nadia Jones to Nadia Smith. You have to have your own story, as Dr. Smith did mention, no pun intended, but you have to have your story, and as Dr. McNeil mentioned, and you have to make sure that you tell your story, and it's a strong story. So don't really compare yourself. Just make sure that you have the requirements that are asked of you to apply to medical school, but don't be discouraged because you have 6 months and not 2 years of clinical experience, okay? So,
okay, thank you.
Yeah,
that's really helpful.
Can I mention something?
Sure, go ahead.
I think the caller is assuming that the type of experience that she's requiring is formal and structured, and someone's going to give it to her. I think many of my colleagues will probably agree with me that some of the best experiences that you can get are voluntary experiences. I know my best recommendation was written over a period of a summer that I spent volunteering at Kings County Hospital. This was something that I just said, well, look, I wanted to do something that particular summer. I went in and these people gave me my best recommendation ever. So be imaginative, be forward thinking, and be positive. And if no one is offering you an experience, go out and create one on your own, as Dr. Holden says, that distinguishes you from some other applicant.
Outstanding. And let me bring in Dr. Camille Clare for the last word. We are at the 9:30 mark. Dr. Clare.
Yes, what I would just offer to the participant, the speakers, that each one of us have our own story, as Dr. McNeil mentioned. We all have had a unique road to the final one, which is medical school or a health professional career that we selected. So not any one individual will have the same experiences. So there is no magic formula and bullet. There's not one combination of summer programs or clinical experiences that will speak to what makes you a better candidate or not. It just means making yourself a stronger candidate, having the minimum requirements that we talked about. And it sounds like we probably need to do another webinar in the future regarding some of these issues later on, because some of these questions come up over and over again. But staying positive, as Dr. Smith mentioned, is key to your success. Being your own advocate for your success is what is ultimately important. So thank you very much.
Outstanding. And I think Dr. McNeil wanted to chime in the closing minutes. Dr. McNeil?
One of the, I don't want to just echo everyone's sentiments, but one of the great pieces of advice I got that transformed my application the second time I applied kind of rings with this concept of telling your story. And that is, even if you only have a shadowing experience that was 2 weeks or 1 month, that experience for you really could have been a formative one. So when you're doing your AMCAS application, every experience that you're listing on your application, your medical school application, instead of just saying, I went to so-and-so's doctor's office for 20 hours a week, seeing patients and so-and-so, change that narrative, that 2 to 3 sentence narrative, to actual story, and say why that experience was formative for you. What did you see, or what were you inspired by, and how does that translate to your passion for becoming a doctor? That's a much more meaningful narrative in that 2 to 3 sentences than just saying what you did. So if you tell a story in each one of those experiences, it makes your application stand out. So even if you only have 2 weeks, 2 months of a shadowing, it can still be equally as powerful if you tell the story the right way.
Outstanding. Thank you so much, Dr. McNeil. And let's give a hand clap to all of our doctors for being a part of this. And in closing, this is what I'd like to remind everyone. There are 2 ways to live your life. Once again, the only 2 ways to live your life. You can exactly live your life the way you're supposed to live your life. And today is about you living your life of passion, a life of following your dreams, a life of commitment, or you can live your life with all of the excuses as to why you can't live your life exactly the way you're supposed to live your life. And so every single day you wake up, you always have a choice. Live your life on purpose or live your life with all of your excuses. So hopefully this webinar has taken away all of your excuses, because you have met your future self. You've met doctors from similar backgrounds. They're now successful, and we're here to help you. So this has been Andrew Morrison from Mentoring in Medicine. We look forward to having you participate in our future webinars. Okay, everyone, take care.